Hey, Nick Peterson here, jamming with you live or maybe a replay, depending on where you catch this. But I just got off a series of calls today, and let me tell you something to reframe some stuff, some limiting beliefs you have. Because the truth is, you always have an advantage. I'm so tired of people saying, well, they have an advantage over me because XYZ. That may be true, but you're in a different position. Use different tools. Okay. We got to find your advantage. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. I was talking to a private client, and they said, I'm at a disadvantage because they're leveraged and they have these courses that convert. They actually don't even have to work one-on-one anymore. And they could just outspend me. Okay. That's one way to look at it. Yeah. If we're going to try to run a whole bunch of traffic, we're at a disadvantage. But you have an advantage. Let's figure out what it is. And then like clockwork, he got a text. He said, oh, hold on, I got to go. Came back, right? Just muted me real quick. Came back and said, yeah, as a private client, they have to deal with XYZ because of not COVID or shelter in place, which is almost behind us now, but the rioting and people coming to terms with racism and how prevalent it is, and people realizing things about themselves they never realized before. And that's what the quick call was about. He's like, so I'm gonna this has come up quite a few times in the last 2 or 3 days, so I gotta circle back and have that conversation. And said, you know what, have that conversation and then pull out the core concepts and write an email about it, because that's your advantage. Your advantage is that, unfortunately, it's not where you want to be, right? None of us are necessarily where we want to be, but we don't have to run that race. We don't have to outspend them. The advantage is, even though you're not leveraged, you are talking to 20 or 30 people a week one-on-one, which means you have your finger on the pulse much, much more so. You're getting feedback at a much faster rate than the people that have their leverage courses and are not doing one-on-one. Right. So we said, let's craft a marketing plan. Now, the marketing plan is all around rapid firing and staying on top of things and showing I got my finger on the pulse. I know how to adjust to what's going on right now. My competitor who built their course a year and a half ago obviously does not have the things necessary to cope with what's going on right now. And they're not getting feedback as fast as I am. So I can solve these problems faster because I have, again, that fingertip feel. And that made sense. Immediately fired out emails, immediately got clients. So what is a perceived disadvantage may very well be your advantage. Everybody has an advantage. Maybe you're not leveraged, which means you're in the middle of it. That can be an advantage. Yeah, we want to get you leveraged. I get it, right? Maybe you're not in the middle of it. Maybe you don't have your finger on the pulse, and that is a disadvantage to you. But we have the advantage that we're leveraged and we can use our time in a different way or spend more money, right? So most people are trying so hard to compete with somebody else's advantage, right? Like if I want to be the next Amazon, I'm not going to directly compete the way Amazon does right now. I'm going to lose. But we can be strategic, find the advantage, take your disadvantage, turn it into an advantage. Because you're not leveraged out of fulfillment, you have your finger on the pulse to what your clients are really saying and feeling, right? And then strategically work up to the point where we gain a bunch of ground. And then if we choose, we can compete head to head with somebody else. But even then, if you're working with me anyway, we're going to find an advantage. We're not just going to copy somebody 10 steps ahead of us because they clearly have a massive advantage of being 10 steps ahead. So what I implore you to do is reframe your disadvantage, right? And think about, how is this an advantage to me right now? Because what you consider a disadvantage, it means nobody else has it, or it wouldn't be a disadvantage, right? It would just be average. So think about that. I'm happy to help you guys work through it if you drop a comment or let me know. But a whole bunch of people saying, well, I don't have money to spend, so I can't compete with these paid traffic guys. Like, cool. You know what? Those paid traffic guys, because they know how to pay for traffic, aren't talking to people the way that you can right now. On the flip side, it's true in reverse too. You have to understand your situation and what your advantage is, take advantage, get wind at your back, and then the strategy changes as you gain resources, right? But it is not a disadvantage to not be leveraged out of fulfillment at all, right? There's no disadvantage. It might be financially, you might have hit a financial ceiling, but your messaging can be tighter. All these things, there's all kinds of benefits that come from whatever situation you're in. And you're so focused on how everybody else obviously has it better that you don't utilize some of your strengths, some of the things that you have right now that you will never have again. Right? If you're still working one-on-one with clients, eventually, and you want to eventually get leveraged out and not do that anymore, you have to take advantage of the situation and have as many conversations and understand them as deeply as possible and develop as much empathy as possible, so that when you're leveraged and you're way up here doing interviews and going on TV shows and writing copy, you're really, really, really connecting with people. A lot of people skip that, right? And on the flip side, there's advantages to being up here that you don't have down here. Those are little typically more obvious, so I don't talk about them as much. But I am willing to bet you are misframing most of your disadvantages that are actually quite beneficial. But because you are misframing it, and because you're choosing not to focus on how they could be advantageous to you, it's hurting you. It's hurting you. So look at the things that you consider a disadvantage and think to yourself, how can I reframe this to give me a competitive upper hand against my people, against everybody else in my industry? And I bet if you look, you'll find it. Cool. That's all I got. That was my quick break. I've been teaching the content mastery, stealth influence content mastery class. So haven't been going live as much because I'm putting a ton into that. It's good. I think it's really good. So hopefully if you're in the class and you're watching it live, it's you're implementing and it's changing the way that you think about things and produce things. That's all I got. Peace out. Changes coming to this group. You'll see them. I'll explain them when they come out. It's pretty exciting.